My name is Stephen Dunn. I'm the author and creator of Hellenistic Christendom, and if you made it to this video, you're watching a series of videos of conversations that I'm having with Vic Cipolla, who is the author of the book Wait for the Corn, Lessons Learned from Being Married to a Porn Star, and the husband to adult film star Dani Daniels, otherwise known as the artist Kira Lee, who is a brilliant artist. But otherwise, these are our conversations in different subjects that are exciting and very brilliant in the nature of conservatism, the different types and perspectives therein, pornography, art, philosophy, occasionally in religion, what books we like, wine, and stuff like that. So it's kind of all over the place, whatever we kind of feel like talking about. But in this video, this is the third conversation now. I think so. And like I said, it's a series of things that we're talking about. And in this specific video, as I break these down into different parts, we're talking a little bit more about his experience with the entertainment industry. Talking a little bit more, I think, in this video about stalkers. And then we get into some political attitudes towards pornography and stuff like that. So it's very exciting stuff. I just want to say thank you for your interest and time taken to look into these videos. Be sure to share them as you see fit, and stay tuned for more conversations, as Vic is a good friend of mine, and we're definitely going to keep doing these conversations. Thank you again. God bless you, and please stay tuned for more videos, and please enjoy this one.
Yeah, not to go to a common subject, but your book. I figured we could probably talk about that real quick, because that was an experience. I mean that in a good way, of course. You know, I laughed a lot. Like I said, there's two main big parts I laughed at, because you were very serious in your introduction, and then you got into the dick pic chapter, which just from the first sentence I was already dying.
Yeah.
But yeah, like I said, it's amazing you do that. Do you go through her phone like on a regular basis and just?
I mean, my wife takes care of all of her own social media, but what I do is I look through. There's a section where non-friends can pour in. Because we have had some stalker issues and some problems, I'm just, she keeps me informed as to what's going on. And then every once in a while she'll actually show me, and we usually laugh because I think it's a dick, but sometimes I'm not sure.
Have you ever had go ahead.
Yeah, we always have that, that running joke. That looks like a dick, only smaller, It's like,
I'm impressed you have that kind of perspective towards seeing that many dicks.
It's funny, and I'm sure we'll wind up referencing this, because I know you've tried to reach out to Brandy Love in her article, but one of the things she said in her article that's actually true is the majority of the people that message my wife want to talk about everything other than porn. It's bizarre. I mean, they want to, and I think it's a natural occurrence with modern celebrity. They feel they own a piece of you because of social media. I don't care who the celebrity is. Doesn't matter if it's,
right.
I mean, Tom Brady or my wife. I don't care. If you're a celebrity now and you're part of the social media ether, people believe they own a little piece of you now because they are so involved. I mean, before it was pedestal, Humphrey Bogart, oh my God, he's out in Hollywood, whatever. Now it's, what's Brad Pitt eating for lunch today? I mean, it's, but it's gotten that much. So I think they own a little piece of you. So now when they, they're texting about their husbands, their wives, their kids, they're asking for advice on, I can't even begin to tell you. I mean, half of the time it's not about sex, which is bizarre, because technically you would think my wife is actually an expert on sex, but most of the time it's not even questions about that. They'll ask me about business, about PR. They text me. It's strange, but
really,
she was right in that 80% of it, easily 80% of it, is not about porn at all. It's.
Did you ever read? So Brandy was responding to that article at the American Conservative. Did you read the original one?
Yeah, I understand. Maybe he was trying to be facetious, but honestly, he's an idiot. That's you don't joke around, especially being a New Yorker who lived through 9/11. You don't joke around about shit like that.
Of course.
That's just if you want to talk about, maybe we need to go back to a moral, I disagree with you. You want to talk about fundamental moral values, Christianity, whatever, I get it. But a caliphate? Are you out of your mind?
Yeah. I was like, just
in case he was wondering, under a caliphate, they'd kill him too.
Exactly. I was like, even if it was a joke, it's not even that funny. Yeah.
And if you honestly think a couple of girls getting naked on OnlyFans is the moral equivalent of stoning people to death in the street, or like happened in Saudi Arabia when a girls' school caught on fire, they weren't allowed to leave the school unless they wrapped themselves first, and many died because they couldn't get to them. If you think that's okay, and that's not way worse than somebody being on OnlyFans, you're out of your damn mind. You've lost your mind, and you've lost your way.
Yeah, idiot is probably a compliment at that point.
Yeah, at that point, yeah, it's like, and I get why you were saying that. You were trying to, do that, illustrate the absurd by being absurd, but that's not absurd now. That's offensive. That's offensive.
Yeah,
that's like coming out and trying to defend slavery. Oh, hey, I mean, not all the slaves were killed. It's like ridiculous.
I'm curious what you thought, just kind of going back to what you mentioned earlier, what you thought about his point about how like that direction of OnlyFans, cam girls, and etc. leads to a more kind of like intimate view among like viewers and like celebrities at this point.
Yeah, that was my point to begin with. It doesn't matter if it's cam girls or OnlyFans or social media. We are in a technological age where fans of anyone feel more intimately connected to them because they see more of their lives. It's not just going and plucking down your couple of bucks at a movie theater or lots of bucks at a movie theater these days and seeing a person on a big screen and fantasizing. You now follow their lives. So to say that somebody being on OnlyFans is more intimate than anything, it's ridiculous. I mean, you have people. Perfect example. You have wow, why can't I think of his name? David Letterman, who had a fan who believed that they were part of his life. He found her in his bed one night, showed up at his house, and there she was. I mean, it's like
I've never heard that.
Oh yeah,
wow.
I mean, there are. I worked as an entertainment publicist, still do for a long time. The amount, especially cross the 90s, especially when you cross into the late 90s, early 2000s, and now when you start getting into social media, the late 2000s into social media, by 2010. Over the last 10 years, as you've really started to have this social media wave, you have more stalker issues. You have more problems because they do feel a greater connection to the person. It's a double-edged sword. If you don't do your social media and maintain your fan base, you don't get roles.
Yeah.
I don't care what it is, modeling, music, porn, doesn't matter. You don't get roles. And if you do that, you're letting in a certain group of people that don't understand the blur of it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I don't, and to single out porn is just it's ridiculous. It's moronic. That's like saying, oh my God, only porn stars are the only entertainers that have problems and drugs and commit suicide. Really? You want to talk to Jim Morrison or anyone Alanis Morissette or Amy Winehouse? I mean, I got Kurt Cobain. You want to talk to a few of them while we're at it?
Yeah. But I'm curious, what do you think about his perspective that like, I mean, this isn't necessarily mine. I'm just kind of rolling it off.
Yeah. No, I know what you're saying.
But is it dangerous? Like even someone you in that position, do you think that direction of social media and like this new celebrity kind of phenomenon is like not a good thing?
I don't know if it's not a good thing. It can be dangerous, but there's at some point in time where it's like terrorism. Okay, we can't stick our head in the sand and pretend that it doesn't exist. I don't care what happens as you're moving forward in the world and the technology grows. The genie's out of the bottle, man. It's like the nuclear bomb, man. The genie's out of the bottle. You're not going back in time. No matter. And unfortunately, too many of my conservatives think that you can put the genie back in. It's not happening. So This is moving forward. So what needs to be done is you need to, as a celebrity or somebody, you need to address these situations. And, many societies like New York is a perfect example. New York has very severe stalker laws on the books after a famous model named Nikki Taylor had a guy that she kept reporting as bothering her, chase her down and threw acid in her face. She was a model, but he felt he had an intimate, relationship with her for God only knows what reason, something right out of a Criminal Minds episode. But, they have the Nikki Taylor law on the books here now, and stalkers are treated, it's taken very seriously. There's going to be a segment of the population that dispense reality. And there's nothing that you're going to, that's like saying we're not allowed to make The Matrix anymore because somebody's going to think they're living in a computer model. It just,
So I'm curious, like, what are the ramifications like that happen with that law? Like, what are they prosecuted more severely?
Yeah, they're prosecuted way more severely. I think it's 7 years in prison.
Wow.
Yeah, we're not talking about. And in addition to that, if the police are called, we had a situation with a stalker, and called the New York Police Department, told them what was going on, and no joke, from the moment I hit end on my cell phone to the moment the person showed up at my door was 4 minutes. 4 minutes.
The cop?
The cops were there. 4 minutes. They don't joke around. And, you know, I don't care where you are in the city, you call, you say that there's a situation, a stalker or something, and they respond very quickly. They take it very seriously. They move the person away. They interview them. They take the driver's license. They flat out tell them, that's it. This is your only chance. You need to stay away from the building. If you show up again, you are going to jail. So, you know, those kind of things have to be taken care of. But, you know, that's part of being celebrity. I mean, stalkers stalking celebrity go back to Jesus Christ. You know, to be honest.
So you've dealt with this before, your relationship with Dani?
Oh yeah. Kira, yeah.
Oh, excuse me. Yeah.
Yeah. You know the reason for that, right?
Not exactly. What do you mean?
My daughter's name is Dani.
Oh, okay.
So Kira.
Yes.
The joke of that. But yeah, I've dealt with. I had a model that I represented that had a very, very dangerous stalker. I mean, we've dealt with stalkers, and any of them can be dangerous, but this guy was. I mean, seriously, this is like stuff you see on a Criminal Minds episode, like every day, 20, 30 emails. I can't believe what you did to me today. You know, it's like. They're just not, you don't know what the color of the sky is in this person's world. And we're not talking about porn. We're talking about just a regular mainstream fashion model. And it was scary. But I mean, you've had, like, I know Neil deGrasse Tyson has had problems with stalkers. Jim Norton, the comedian's had problems with stalkers. I mean, it's just, I think it's part of it's, you know, celebrity comes with some things and it comes with some negative things.
Yeah. Yeah. No, but that actually reminds me that you brought it up. I saw the last one I saw was your podcast with your daughter. Baby Dani.
Baby Dani, as everybody calls her now. Yes, where she was talking about her love of all things baseball.
Yes, I didn't know she was a diehard fan. I mean, I guess you are too, right?
Yeah, I'm a diehard Yankee fan. My dad's a diehard. It's in the family. That was one of the jokes that Kira likes to tell, is that when we got married, in case anybody hasn't figured out, I don't really have a lot of like things that are musts with me. I'm a pretty easygoing guy. Mm-hmm. But I remember I said to her, I'm like, you know, do you follow sports at all? And she said, no. I said, I was like, oh, do you have a favorite baseball team? So she said, no. I said, it's the Yankees now. And she went, okay, it's the Yankees now. that was the end of that discussion. It was like, you know.
That's awesome. Has she been to a lot of ball games?
Yeah, we try and go as many. I mean, who the hell knows if we're going to be able to go again, but we've gone as many. We actually went to London to watch the Yankees play the Red Sox in London. It was the first baseball game ever played in London. And it's Yankees Red Sox. So we went, and we actually took my daughter, and we went with a bunch of other friends, and we went and saw 2 games there. It was phenomenal. We won both games, so it was even better.
Yeah. So I thought I heard that story right. So she was in London, and she was behind home plate yelling at someone. Yes. And the dad of that person was behind her.
No, that was a different.
Okay.
That was actually at Yankee Stadium. She got tickets. A friend of hers, I believe it was the Blue Jays, was working for the Blue Jays. So she winds up in the Blue Jays section, and she's yelling at this kid. And it's his first time pitching in Yankee Stadium is not an easy task. I mean, the house that Ruth built, I mean, the laundry list of people that, you know, you're looking at the cathedral of baseball, literally. And she is just, and welcome to New York. Now you also have to deal with New York fans who are going to razz the crap out of you. And the guy is like, you're in the wrong section. And she turned around and went, you're in the wrong stadium.
Oh my God. That's awesome. Does she live in New York?
Yeah, she lives in New York. She actually lives close to the stadium.
So I'm curious about that a little bit further, because at least in your book, and especially just talking as well, you place a high emphasis on educating your children, and, you know, stuff like that. What has been your experience with this, like raising a daughter? Is that okay to ask?
Oh yeah. My daughter and my wife are best friends. So. You know?
I got you. Yeah, that's awesome.
They're very close. They're like it says. As a matter of fact, the running joke of my family is if anybody wants my daughter to do something, they ask Kira. She can usually get there to do it. Say what you want about it. You know, I know Kira had told my daughter that if she ever thought of going into the adult industry, she'd kill her. But
you agree? Do you agree?
Do I agree? It's not necessary. I don't know that I would want my child in any form of entertainment, to be honest with you. I really
Okay.
don't.
I mean,
don't.
you've probably seen that butt side of it, so.
I've seen the bad side of all of it. My daughter was actually a fashion model for a while. I don't know if we talked about it on the podcast. She was a fashion model in New York
She
for a
mentioned in
while.
passing.
Yeah, and there's a lot of ugliness. There's way more ugliness in fashion than there is in porn. Honestly, way more.
Wow.
It's scary, actually.
Is
But
that internally, or is that like personal opinion, like outside opinions?
internally.
Really?
Externally, you're dealing with the same lunatic feminists that think that somehow the two places on the face of the planet where women are paid more than men are porn and modeling, and it's the two places feminists have the most problem with. Go figure. But bizarre. That's why I always have a problem with them. But I wouldn't be a big fan of her doing it. But I will say this, because of my wife, and my wife's a really smart person. My daughter has gained more confidence, is happier with herself. She would back me up in all of this. And also, Kira actually got her to focus her attention on something she loved, which was baseball. Kind of like walked her down that path a little bit. And my daughter did most of this on her own. But Kira was the kind of person who would encourage her through this whole process and show her that don't worry about what other people think. Don't be upset about women aren't normally baseball commentators. Don't let that stuff get in your head. And she would say the things that I've had to deal with as an adult star, being, automatically scarlet lettered throughout life.
Yeah.
But still, look at me. I'm happy. I'm married. I have a great relationship. We travel. We do all the things we want. We have we give to charity. We have our beliefs. She's like, don't let somebody tell you what you can and can't do. You figure that out for yourself. And it really, really helped my daughter a lot. And she's grown so much out of it. It's kind of awesome to see.
No, that is awesome. I remember Danny mentioned in passing, and I think your Evil Avia episode, where it was like that stigma after porn, and that having that mindset.
Yeah, until your side or my side wins this battle. So one of the sides wins this battle, which I don't think is going to be won anytime soon in our life, either of our lifetimes.
I agree.
There are some things that come with being an adult entertainer, and again, I always harken back to the misogyny of it all. Male adult entertainers do not tend to have the same stigma that women do. Male adult entertainers tend to work back out into the system. And, I don't know that they're going to be a bank teller because of a background check, but they tend, you don't really hear much about problems but the women get tortured through this process. And a lot of it, I don't think, has anything to do with porn. I think it has to do with flat out misogyny in a patriarchal society that feels that the one place that the patriarchy literally gives up its power is when it comes to sex. And the last thing that they need to do is have a whole bunch of women realize they can be controlled by sex. And they can. Go through history. Look at the sex scandals through history.
I'm curious.
Go back to Lot's wife,
for real. Don't turn around.
Yeah, right. Don't turn around.
But I'm curious if so what's your advice to? I want to ask this first question where I'm like, okay, well, what then should girls really consider their decision going into porn? My first question really is, what is your advice to girls getting out of it or making that transition?
I mean, my wife's kind of halfway transitioned out of the whole thing. And I do the same thing with adult film stars that are friends of ours, that I did with politicians, I did with anybody. Just don't deny it. It is what it is. It's your life. It's part of your life. It's who you are. It's what you were. Don't apologize for it. Don't deny it. Don't run around trying to make up excuses for it, because they're going to crucify you, literally and figuratively. You're gonna go through a nightmare because of it. Be honest. Come out and say who you are. Say who you are. Some people aren't going to like you, and some people are, and most people aren't going to give a shit. That's really what it comes down to. Let's be honest. Really comes down to, there's going to be a very vocal group of people who dislike you. There's going to be a smaller group of people who think you're awesome, and there's going to be a whole bunch in the middle who are going to go, what do I care? That's kind of the way the world works. So be honest about it. But if you lie, if you pretend it didn't happen, if you try and downplay it, if you try and say I only did 2 scenes when you did 200, if you do any of that crap, the lie becomes the story, the cover up becomes the crime, and now you're screwed. Now you just, so just, you know. And the other thing is I mean, my wife's given, and every interview that she's ever given, she's like, this is not like committing to bangs. You know, you can't grow them out and it doesn't disappear. Your family's going to find out. So if you don't go into this with a love of sex and an understanding of what you're going into, just don't do it. But if you know what you're getting into, if you realize the problems and the pratfalls, and if you do love sex and you enjoy sexual expression and freedom, then be my guest, have a field day. But don't do it unless if you're getting in this to be famous or rich, you're in deep shit.
Yeah.
You know, and she said that a million times.
Well, no, because I noticed that a lot of you don't talk much. At least when you do, it's primarily around the porn subject. Now, of course, there are interviews where you had where it's not porn stars. You know, your daughter, you interviewed the Mormon guy.
Book of Mormon, yeah. When we get away from the porn conversations, especially in the Broadway conversations, because I'm a Broadway fanatic, I probably dominate more than my wife does. But obviously, when we're in the porn conversations, most of these people know me, but they know my wife for a decade, and they only know me for maybe a year or two. So, you know, I try to at least I hope to try and offer a perspective that's away from the industry, but not negative to the industry, if that makes sense.
Yeah. So my question is, are you in any way, are you annoyed? Do you find yourself always surrounded in the porn conversation or anything like that? I got you.
I don't care. I mean, to be honest with you, I'm probably a defender of it. I have significant problems because I've even read you write it. I read guys write studies that are total bullshit, that have been debunked a million ways to Sunday, that have said things that are just wrong. I mean, just wrong.
Yeah.
Like, you know, Matt Fraud's stuff about how the brain shrinks when watching porn. If you actually read the study that he refers to, the person said that there are a variety of factors and they couldn't determine whether porn was the reason why the person's brain shrunk. But that's besides the point. If you just say that one line, you know, it's great. We can say anything. You know, constant, oh my God, it leads to violence and rape towards women, when every freaking statistic on the planet shows the absolute reverse. Every major, I mean, crime, not even me, the FBI crime statistics since 1995, when porn became readily available on the internet, the incidence of violence towards women dropped 40%. So if you're telling the truth and access to porn causes rape and violence, should have gone up. There's like no gray area. It should have gone up. You know, the ED studies, there's the correlation between porn and erectile dysfunction. The numbers are the same whether porn exists or doesn't exist. I mean, it's just like if you want to tell me you morally disapprove of it, if you think that sex belongs only in a marriage, if you think that it's something that should be private between a man and woman, I have respect for that. If you try and pull out bullshit statistics where you quote bits and pieces of a study that aren't true, when you have every major psychological study on the planet says there's no such thing as porn addiction, but you just going to keep saying there is, then I have a real problem. I have a real problem with all of that. But like I said, be honest with it. I know what your problem is. I know what your problem is. I get what your problem is. I disagree with it, but I get it. So don't throw out like, oh, we'll just tell the entire world that everybody's going to get raped if they watch porn. No, no, it doesn't happen. It doesn't exist. So you know, and that's you know, like I have more respect from you trying to come up with a philosophical reason why it doesn't work than I have with them bringing out studies that have been shown repeatedly by not porn advocates, just basic everyday old psychiatrists, Psychology Today, the FBI, you know, organizations that aren't pro or anti-porn have been shown repeatedly are not true.
Right. And that really is my problem in the debate, especially with like religious and non-religious having the porn debate, because it just becomes like, what facts do you have and what facts do I have, and who's going to come out on top at the end? You know, who's going
to yell louder usually?
After a while, I know. I'll be honest with you because it's funny. Do you ever watch Monty Python?
Oh, I love Monty Python.
Do you remember the sketch where there was the world's funniest joke, and every time someone read it, they would laugh so hard they die? You know, for someone, just for those watching that don't know it, you know, a man writes the world's funniest joke. He reads it, he laughs, and he dies. His wife comes in and reads it, she dies. Eventually, a military force is brought in. They all die, and then they weaponize it to use against the Germans. And basically, I don't think that there's going to be an argument against porn that functions in that same kind of way. So let's imagine any other Christian or whoever else takes an anti-porn stance, and they're sitting here having this kind of conversation like we're having. I don't expect you to like have a conversation with me about anti-porn, etc., and then get out of your chair, go up to Kira and be like, "Hey, babe, listen, this kid's right. I think you should stop what you're doing, and we should probably look somewhere else." I don't think that's really going to happen. I'm just more interested in, you know, understanding that perspective a little bit better. But then you surprised the hell out of me with the Republican, pro-life, conservative kind of thing, which I didn't know at all coming into meeting you.
Right.
Which, so I guess
I guess where my problem with a lot of this has always come from, and I always tell Christians and the same thing that I say is like, do you understand that what you are using against porn could turn against you at some point?
Mm-hmm.
Because you're trying to enforce a religious morality on a secular society. And if at some point in time the society turns around and says, you know what, we did some investigation, we've now decided that religion needs to be banned because of, let me give you a list of things from the Crusades to priests raping children about why religion sucks. And now we've decided that you shouldn't be teaching anybody religion anymore. And now you've given the doorway to spreading moral laws that, you know, all of a sudden take things and take freedoms away, which we're now seeing outside, that you can't literally do anything without a governor's approval. When you start doing so, you are opening up an ugly, ugly door. That was, you know, Thomas Jefferson and, you know, many of these others. I may not agree with what you're saying, but I'll defend to my death your right to say it. I may not agree with porn in every case, but I will defend its right to happen. It is not murder. I mean, we're not talking about, you are now talking about, this is what gave way to, like we had in our first discussion, laws about the size of the soda you can drink. Right. I mean, at some point in time, do understand that you could become the minority and the majority can step in and go, we've decided now that those people who are practicing religion and teaching religion are going to go to jail. We're going to send them to jail because we think that they are hurting children. And now you're going to go under the same prosecution laws that you've passed for pornographers. You know, this is not, we should have a global caliphate. This is actually something that could happen. There's nothing that prevents, once you start down that path, there's nothing that prevents it from backlashing and going it against you in the exact same spot. And they can come up with all the same kind of bullshit studies. I mean, like I said, you know, when you have, for example, you know, over 1,000 kids molested in Pennsylvania over a 10-year period by priests, that sounds like a pretty good reason why, if I'm a Catholic and I allow my child to go to church, that I should probably be thrown in jail. I mean, you know, you're not far off the basis of that. So if you start, you know, if you start down that path, it's ugly. It is an ugly path for government to be in. So yeah, I may not agree with religion, but it has its place in society, and I'm not going to say anybody should get rid of them, and I don't think anybody should get rid of the other side either. It's the same reason why the ACLU supports Nazis' right to march. Mm-hmm. You know, there's no one in the ACLU who's agreeing with the American Nazi Party, but they were the ones who made sure they were able to march. You know?
No, and that's why I appreciate you talking to you more, because it can help me better understand the conservative conversation on this aspect. Because, you know, again, my perspective is I don't really know how to approach this from a policy issue. Because if I'm going to argue that porn is bad, and I want to take the political direction of it, I don't know, just from my trained perspective. I'm a philosopher. I don't know anything about political science or what goes on up in Washington. So I can't say precisely what's going on that way. I think we have good minds in that area. But so, for example, I don't know if you read my Brandy Love response. It's cool if you didn't. But
I did.
Oh, bless you. But I mentioned how she made the argument that, you know, doesn't this conservative realize that the U.S. Supreme Court that has already established under the First Amendment that pornography has a freedom to a right to expression. But my point is that oversteps what we need to consider. I mean, sure, the Supreme Court says it's okay, but that doesn't mean that the reality of what's going on is okay. So I think we need to cut deeper to like a philosophical understanding of, well, you know, and this is probably where conservatives come back in: public virtue, pursuing a common good, and what that looks like.